If you told me 2 years ago I'd be where I am now, I wouldn't have believed you. But here's how it happened. Alright, so here's the raw truth. 2 years ago, I was stuck in a rut so deep it felt like a grave I dug myself. I was 27, working a job that paid just enough to keep the lights on, but drained the life out of me. Every day was the same. Wake up late because I'd stayed up too late scrolling on my phone, drag myself to work half awake, sit in front of a computer pretending to care, come home, binge Netflix, repeat. I told myself I wanted more, but I had no idea what more meant or how to get it. My savings account was a joke, my self-confidence was even worse, and I'd fallen into the dangerous comfort of thinking my situation was just how life is. The scariest part? I was starting to believe it. The trigger came when I realized a year had passed and literally nothing had changed except the calendar. My friends were getting promoted, starting businesses, moving to better apartments, and I was still in the same chair, eating the same microwave dinners, wondering why nothing good ever happened to me. That night, I remember looking in the mirror and hating the person staring back, not because of how I looked, though that wasn't great either, but because deep down I knew I was capable of more. I just wasn't doing anything about it. That's when I decided something had to change. I didn't know what the big plan was going to be, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let another year pass with me sitting on the sidelines of my own life. The first few weeks were ugly. I didn't have some perfect morning routine or a crystal clear business plan. I just had desperation and a Google search bar. I started reading everything I could about side hustles, entrepreneurship, freelancing, all the make money online rabbit holes you can imagine. I was convinced I'd stumble on some magic formula. Spoiler, I didn't. My first attempt was flipping items on eBay. I raided my closet, sold some old headphones, a jacket I never wore, and a video game console gathering dust. The 180 I made felt like I'd cracked the code, until I realized I had nothing left to sell. Then I tried starting a drop shipping store because some YouTuber said it was zero risk. I spent 3 weeks building it, $100 on Facebook ads, and made exactly one sale, which turned into a refund when the shipping took too long. Looking back, my problem wasn't laziness anymore, it was focus. I jumped from one opportunity to another without actually learning the skills that made those opportunities work. But even in the mess, something shifted. I'd gone from thinking about doing something to actually trying, and that tiny bit of momentum felt different. Still, I was broke, confused, and starting to feel the sting of reality. If I wanted to make real progress, I'd need more than enthusiasm and a credit card. It happened almost by accident. A friend from college posted on Instagram that he needed someone to edit a short video for his startup's social media. I'd messed around with editing before, nothing fancy, just hobby-level stuff, so I offered to help. I spent hours on that little project, way more time than the $50 he paid me was worth. But when I sent it to him, he replied, "Dude, this is actually really good. Can I send you more work?" That $50 wasn't just money, it was proof. Proof that something I could do had value to someone else. It wasn't selling random junk or chasing some gimmicky trend, it was a skill, and it was mine. The craziest part? He referred me to another business owner who offered me $200 for a slightly bigger project. For the first time, I could picture an actual path forward, however narrow it was, but it was enough to make me think, maybe I'm not just flailing around, maybe there's something here. Just when I thought I'd found my lane, life punched me in the gut. I was starting to line up a few more small editing gigs when my laptop, my only laptop, completely died. No warning, no weird noises beforehand, just a black screen and the smell of something burnt. The repair guy told me the motherboard was fried and fixing it would cost more than the machine was worth. I had maybe $400 to my name, rent due in 2 weeks, and now no way to do the work that was finally bringing in a little money. I felt that old hopelessness creeping back in, whispering, "See, this is why you don't get your hopes up." For a couple of days, I honestly considered just calling it quits, going back to my routine of clocking in, clocking out, and not dreaming too big. It felt safer than getting crushed by another setback. But then something weird happened. One of my clients, the $200 one, reached out asking if I could take on another project. I explained the situation, half expecting them to just find someone else. Instead, they offered to pay me half up front so I could buy a used laptop and finish the job. It wasn't charity, it was trust, and that trust hit me harder than the setback. If someone else believed I could pull this off, maybe I should too. That client's advance payment felt like a line in the sand. I could either limp back to my old life or double down and actually commit. I chose the latter, partly out of pride, partly because I was terrified of wasting this second chance. I bought a beat-up, refurbished laptop for $280. It was slow, the battery barely lasted an hour, and the spacebar stuck if you hit it wrong, but it worked. I finished the project, got paid the rest, and instead of breathing a sigh of relief and coasting, I told myself, this is it. No more dabbling. That night, I opened a new notebook and wrote down one sentence. For the next year, I'm going all in on learning and building this skill until I can make a living from it. From that moment, the whole mindset shifted. I stopped chasing every random opportunity and started thinking long-term. If I was going to make this work, I needed to become undeniably good at what I did. No magic formula, no hoping for luck, just skill, consistency, and stubbornness. This was the part nobody glamorizes, the long, boring, exhausting middle. I treated my editing like a second full-time job. I'd wake up at 6 a.m., squeeze in 2 hours of tutorials and practice before work, then come home, eat something quick, and grind until midnight. Weekends, gone. Social life, minimal. My friends joked that I had disappeared, but honestly, I didn't care. I was on a mission. The first few weeks were ugly. I realized how bad I actually was compared to pros. I picked apart my own work, compared it to the stuff that went viral, and learned every little trick I could. I studied color grading, sound design, pacing, storytelling, all the details that make an edit feel alive.
I was constantly tired. There were nights when my eyes burned from staring at the screen, when I questioned if the sacrifices were worth it. Rent still ate most of my income, and I was living on instant noodles more often than I'd like to admit. But I started to notice little signs of progress. My edits got cleaner. My clients gave better feedback. I could do in 3 hours what used to take me 8. And slowly, painfully slowly, I was building a portfolio I was actually proud of. It wasn't glamorous, and it definitely wasn't easy, but it was movement. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was moving towards something that mattered. I won't lie, doing all that grinding alone almost broke me. What kept me going was the few people who showed up when I needed them most. First was Mia, an old college friend who'd gone into marketing. She started giving me honest feedback on my work, sometimes brutal, but always helpful. She taught me how to think about storytelling from a brand's perspective, which was a game changer. Mia also introduced me to a small online community of freelancers, where I found people who actually got the struggle. Then there was my younger brother. He's not the type to dole out advice, but he believed in me without question. Whenever I hit a wall or felt overwhelmed, a quick text from him asking, "You good?" was enough to pull me back from the edge. And here's a wild card. An unexpected mentor emerged from one of my clients, a guy who ran a small creative agency. After I delivered a tricky project ahead of schedule, he invited me to do more work with his team and even gave me free access to some advanced editing courses. I was floored. Never expected someone to invest in me like that. These connections weren't just business, they became my lifeline. When the stress piled up, when doubt crept in, knowing I wasn't alone made the impossible feel a little less intimidating. Just when things were starting to feel like they might actually work out, life threw me another curveball. The creative agency I was working with hit a rough patch. Their funding got delayed, and suddenly all my gigs from them vanished overnight. I went from having a steady-ish flow of work to crickets. My savings were slim, and the stress felt suffocating. But here's the key difference from last time. I didn't panic. Instead of freezing or giving up, I treated this like a problem to solve. I doubled down on outreach, revamped my portfolio website, and started cold emailing potential clients every day. I reached out to every contact I had made and asked if they knew anyone who needed an editor. It was humiliating, frustrating, and exhausting. But this time, I had a plan. I didn't just wait for luck, I chased it down. Eventually, a small nonprofit responded, needing social media clips. It wasn't glamorous or well-paid, but it kept me afloat and gave me something to build on. This hurdle taught me that setbacks are inevitable, but how you respond makes all the difference. Last time, I nearly quit. This time, I fought. This time, the breakthrough felt real. After grinding through months of cold emails, late nights, and sketchy gigs, a small but rapidly growing startup reached out for a contract to produce weekly video content. The pay was modest but steady, and the best part was they loved my work and trusted me to lead creative direction on their projects. From there, things snowballed. They introduced me to other founders in their network. Word spread that I was reliable and skilled. Suddenly, I wasn't just a freelancer scraping by, I was building a brand for myself. I landed a few medium-sized contracts that paid well enough to quit my part-time job, which had been draining my energy and time. For the first time, I felt like the hard work was paying off in a way I could see and feel every month in my bank account. That breakthrough didn't feel like luck. It felt like the cumulative effect of every lesson, every late night, every awkward email sent. It was proof that persistence was its own kind of magic. Once the momentum hit, it didn't stop, but scaling brought a whole new set of challenges. I started juggling multiple clients, deadlines piled up, and the pressure skyrocketed. I had to learn how to manage my time like a boss, say no to projects that didn't fit my vision, and even outsource small tasks to freelancers to keep up. My days got busier, but also more rewarding. I moved out of my tiny apartment into a place with a proper workspace, something I dreamed about for years. I invested in better gear, learned how to pitch myself confidently, and even started building a website that felt professional. Clients began to refer me to others without me even asking. My bank account balance was no longer a source of dread, but a sign of growth. I was able to pay off old debts and even take a weekend trip for the first time in forever. Scaling up wasn't just about more money or clients, it was about transforming how I saw myself, from a struggling freelancer to a business owner with real potential. I'll never forget the moment it hit me. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting at my desk, sipping coffee, editing a project for a new client, a name I actually recognized from a big brand. The email pinged, payment received. Not just a small freelance check, but a decent deposit that could cover my rent and leave some room for savings. I paused and just stared at the screen. For the first time in years, the stress wasn't overwhelming me. I wasn't worried about how I'd pay bills next month or if I'd have work next week. I felt calm, proud, and honestly a little stunned. That was the moment I realized I was actually succeeding. Not just scraping by or getting lucky, but building something real with my own hands. It wasn't about the money alone. It was about the freedom to choose my projects, the respect I'd earned, and the confidence that I could keep growing. Even though I was riding high on momentum, this was by no means the time to relax. If anything, this phase demanded more grit and sharper focus than ever before. I knew the difference between doing okay and breaking through was consistency and the willingness to push beyond comfort zones. Around this time, a major opportunity came knocking. A big, reputable company reached out wanting a full-scale campaign video series. The project was massive compared to anything I had done before, tight deadlines, high expectations, and a budget that, if I nailed it, could redefine my career. But here's the kicker. The project started right when my laptop again began to act up. Yeah, I know, déjà vu. This time, I couldn't afford repairs or replacements immediately. I had to get creative, borrowing a friend's machine, working late into the night, managing file transfers on unreliable Wi-Fi, and juggling client calls between editing sessions. Stress was through the roof.
Still, I refused to let setbacks dictate my pace. I doubled down on planning, breaking the project into bite-sized milestones, and tackled each with laser focus. I pulled a few all-nighters, fueled by nothing but black coffee and stubbornness. When exhaustion hit, I I reminded myself why I'd started in the first place. The vision of a life where I controlled my time, my creativity, and my income. That final push also meant leveling up my communication skills. I kept clients updated daily, managed expectations transparently, and proactively solved problems before they blew up. This built trust and made the whole process smoother despite the chaos behind the scenes. The project took nearly 2 months of relentless work, but when I delivered the final product, the client was blown away. They not only paid the full amount, but also offered a retainer contract and referrals to other major players. That moment wasn't just a professional win. It was proof I could handle pressure, setbacks, and big responsibilities without losing sight or breaking down. It cemented my confidence in myself and my business. So, here I am, about 2 years from that dark place where I was stuck and scared, sitting in my own bright, cozy studio apartment, running a video editing business that actually supports me comfortably. I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm thriving. I have steady clients who trust me with important projects, a small team of freelancers helping with overflow, and a pipeline of work that means I don't have to panic about the next paycheck. I upgraded my gear, goodbye slow laptop, and I'm finally able to invest in courses and tools that keep sharpening my craft. Financially, I'm making more in a month than I used to in 3. I've paid off all the debts that weighed me down, saved a rainy day fund, and even booked a trip abroad for the first time since college. But beyond the numbers, the biggest change is how I feel. I wake up motivated, excited even, to dive into projects that challenge me. I'm not just a freelancer or a side hustle guy anymore. I'm a business owner, a creator, and someone who has earned their own respect. I still have doubts, bad days, and challenges. That never really goes away. But now I have the tools and mindset to push through instead of crumble. Looking back, the journey was anything but a straight line. It was messy, confusing, and at times downright brutal. I learned that success isn't this instant magical thing. It's a grind filled with tiny victories, unexpected setbacks, and moments where you just have to keep going even when you don't want to. I learned that skill alone isn't enough. You need patience, resilience, and the willingness to ask for help. Trust me, trying to do it all alone is a fast track to burnout and quitting. Most importantly, I learned a brutal truth about myself. I can be my biggest obstacle or my greatest ally. When I stopped making excuses and started taking responsibility for my growth, things began to change. The fear of failure, it never completely disappeared, but I stopped letting it freeze me. I realized failure isn't the enemy, not trying is. This process forced me to grow in ways I didn't expect, not just as a professional, but as a person. I'm more disciplined, more self-aware, and more willing to embrace discomfort because I know that's where growth happens. If you're reading this and feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or like you'll never break through, I want you to know something important. You're not alone, and it's okay to struggle. Here's what I'd tell my past self, and I'm sharing it with you now. 1. Start small, but start now. Don't wait for the perfect idea, the perfect time, or the perfect setup. Take any step forward, even if it feels tiny or messy. Momentum matters. 2. Be patient with your progress. Real growth takes time. You'll stumble, you'll fail, and that's part of the process. Don't get discouraged by the slow days. They add up. 3. Find your people. Surround yourself with mentors, friends, or communities that push you, support you, and keep you accountable. You don't have to go it alone. 4. Embrace the grind. There's no substitute for hard work. You have to show up consistently, even on days when motivation is zero. Discipline beats inspiration most of the time. 5. Learn to pivot. When something doesn't work, don't see it as failure. See it as data. Adjust your approach, try new things, but never give up on the bigger goal. 6. Trust yourself. The voice inside telling you you can't is lying. Believe that you can learn, adapt, and grow, because you absolutely can. If I can go from broke, stuck, and scared to running a business I'm proud of, so can you. The road won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Keep pushing, keep grinding. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. Cheers from someone who's been there and is still on the journey with you.